really excited to talk about why the Las Vegas Raiders need to trade up in the 2021 NFL Draft. But before we get into it, we got to ask you guys that watch us on YouTube to like and subscribe down below. Leave us a like and a comment. Helps people find the show. We'd greatly appreciate it. Forgive me for my stuttering, as I haven't had my morning coffee yet. So there's a lot of things that's circling around this NFL draft. I don't believe there's going to be a combine off the top of my head, which makes GM's jobs a lot harder to start out with. But the Las Vegas Raiders need to trade up in the 2021 NFL draft, and it's quite honestly only for two players in my mind. I think there's a third that they could stay right where they're at and probably get him. But a lot of the mock drafts have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, out of the linebacker out of Notre Dame, going to him, which, I mean, solid pick, flies around, makes plays and everything. However, my first player that I think the Raiders need to trade up for is Micah Parsons. Yes, the linebacker out of Penn State. Can you imagine what it would be like to have Micah Parsons just blitzing blitzing those A gaps for the Raiders? I mean, it would be an unstoppable defense. I mean, just everything that man brings. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that just brings it every day. Micah Parsons is just clearly the man. Quite honestly, I would say that he's probably the linebacker with the most upside in terms of blitzing. I think he's the best blitzing linebacker in the draft. But I mean, honestly, it's an underrated skill in my mind, because as a linebacker, it's so integral that especially when you're blitzing, you don't really give necessarily the gap you're going to. It seems like Parsons kind of gives it away almost a tid, just a bit, but it doesn't matter because he just brings it every single time. Let's give you a little bit of a background on Micah Parsons, a former 5-star recruit out of Harrisburg High School, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that is. 6'3", 235 coming out. You knew this dude was going to be a dude just coming out. And it has totally worked out for him at Penn State. He's been an absolute monster after a couple seasons there. His true freshman year, he came out and was immediately a man for him, had 82 total tackles, including 4 for loss and a sack and a half. And then his sophomore year is really when this man jumped off the tape to me, and also just really came out as emerged as a great player for the Lions. So played a total of 13 games, had 109 tackles, including 14 for loss and 5 sacks. Now, if you watch his tape, he is just wow. Like, if you look up wow in the dictionary, there's just a picture of Micah Parsons, because just the way he jumps up, not necessarily the way he blitzes, just the way that first step of explosion, especially as he bursts through the hole if he comes off the edge, just wow. I mean, that every bit of the word is Micah Parsons. So the Raiders have a couple of key needs in my mind. I think defensive tackles, certainly one, corners as well. They need to bolster their defense, which I believe is the weakest part of the ball, whether offense or defense. I think the defense definitely needs to improve more. But I think in terms of personnel, I think the Raiders are doing a pretty good job. But I think that if they can start by getting Micah Parsons, trading up for him, I definitely think he's a player that immediately would make their defense not only good, but it would make their entire team a contender because of how good Micah Parsons is and just what the man brings. I think he's a great player, and I think he could definitely do a lot for their defense. The next player that I see the Raiders that they really need to trade up for is a guy by the name of Christian Barmore. Excuse me. He is a defensive tackle out of Alabama, and I'll give you guys a little bit of a background. Excuse me here. He is a former 4-star recruit out of Neumann-Goretti High School out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I hope I said that right. Neumann-Goretti. That's awesome. Was 6'5", 292 coming out. Had a pretty good amount of offers. And I feel like, quite honestly, the more likely scenario is they're probably going to have to trade up for Barmore, just because of the Vikings who are ahead of the Raiders are probably going to want his services. But Christian Barmore is a man. He's just a one-man wrecking crew inside. Can holds up stout against the run. Also brings it against the pass. So currently, I'm going to give you a little bit of college background here. As a freshman, he recorded 26 total tackles, including 6 for loss and 2 sacks. And then his sophomore year, this last year, and didn't opt out due to COVID, and was just a man on the inside. If you watch the national championship game, if you watch any of the playoffs, or just turn on any film of Christian Barmore, and you are going to love what you see. A guy that's just now again, one of my biggest things is it's so hard to really truly grade defensive tackles, especially how they hold up against double teams, because I feel like Barmore probably does it better out of any defensive tackle that's 320 or lower. I think Barmore's in that more in that 310 range, but you get those 340, 350 pound defensive tackles. It usually gets to be pretty tough. You talk about like there's a lot of guys that I think are quite honestly amazing that I think would be really great to see. And especially, I feel like Barmore, like I said, I think he holds up the best out of the entire draft class in terms of holding a double team at that 320 and lower range. But I'm not exactly sure how he's going to hold up in the NFL with double teams, because clearly, I mean, you want to talk about NFL teams are just, I mean, that is the only reason. Like, they're just, they're very good. But I think even a guy like Jordan Davis, those 340, 350 pound 250 pound defensive tackles that just man's in the middle. They hold up double teams better than a guy like Barmore, who's, again, 310, 320. But Barmore does it surprisingly well. And I think that with how he plays in the run game, I think that would be an immediate upgrade for the Raiders, and just what he brings in the pass game too. It would just immediately make the Raiders just not only contenders, but I think it would just really help them out, and their defense would skyrocket in the rankings just because of those two players, Micah Parsons and Christian Barmore. Those two players immediately would enhance the Raiders defense. Now, I don't know if they're necessarily going to want to right away go ahead and trade for both of them. Probably the more likely scenario is trading up for Barmore, but if they really want to go get Parsons, I can see it being done. I see. I mean, it's really tough to see. It's going to really depend on what happens at the top of the first round with the quarterbacks that are going and a lot of the talent that's going around. Because I think Kwity Paye, could definitely go high. I think they're also targeting a guy like him. But Kwity Paye is probably, in my mind, will still be there. But even if they have the chance, I don't think they can pass on a guy like Parsons, who would immediately fill a weakness in their defense, because linebacker is a huge need for the Raiders. So even a guy like Kwity Paye out of Michigan probably would be there, but I feel like they should definitely grab a guy like Micah Parsons or Christian Barmore. And finally, a lot of the mock drafts that I've been looking up and from the tape that I've saw that would make a lot of sense is J.C. Horn, the cornerback out of South Carolina. Now, corner is a need that J.C. Horn would definitely fill for the Raiders, but I really think that it starts and ends with Barmore and Parsons. They need to start with Barmore and Parsons, either one. I think you can find a lot of quality cornerbacks in this draft. Plus, there's some okay ones in free agency as well. I mean, you talk about guys like Patrick Peterson, who I believe that still have quite a bit in the tank. He definitely does, but I definitely think that if you want to get a guy like J.C. Horn, Barmore and Parsons better be off the board, because if you don't take a shot on those two, you might regret it, because I think they're going to be two very big game-changing players. And you could also target guys like Richard Sherman and Josh Norman if you really want to, and even Mackenzie Alexander I think would definitely bring a lot to the Raiders. But in terms of right now, even maybe Xavier Rhodes, who's really rejuvenated his career, I feel like that the Raiders cannot, even though, by the way, I got a lot of love for Clelin Ferrell. People hate him a lot because they don't think he was worth that number 4 overall pick a couple years ago. I think he was. I think he's still a great player, so give some respect to my mans. But it starts with Barmore and it starts with Parsons. If the Raiders get either one of them, immediate playoff contenders in my mind, now, no question about it. So let me know what you guys think. Who else the Raiders should grab? There's a lot of players in this draft that excite me in terms of filling needs for the Raiders, and I think they could definitely do some big things in the NFL. But remember to subscribe down below, leave a like and a comment. Helps people find the show. And also remember to check out our website at thesportsbeatpodcast.com and download us on iTunes.